We are starting the YouTube recording. There it is. And we will start the audio in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to another episode of
Business Bros!
What up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Well, I don't know if children listen. Actually, that's not true. I do have some children that listen.
Like your own?
Yeah, well, my own for sure, but their friends at school. I have a couple of them that listen, and they're always commenting on our YouTube page. So, Emery, a little shout out to you. He's always leaving us stuff on our YouTube page. So hopefully we affect the youth young and they listen, learn a little something, even if they don't quite know all the vocabulary yet, just the little tidbits that they get. Hopefully it makes a difference for them. All right, before we get started, make sure we do our normal announcements. Ladies and gentlemen, 365 pairs of shoes. Jose Valencia, our last guest, is going to give us a couple pairs of shoes. So we are down to under 340. I think it's going to be somewhere around there.
Sweet.
So if you have gently used pairs of shoes or new pair of shoes that you hustled off Amazon,
I'll ride out there.
Yeah, you need somebody to pick them up. James will ride out there on his Harley, pick them up for you. And remember, our goal is 365 pairs of shoes before the end of the year. So if you got them, let us know. James@csfirst.com or text them, call them 619-884-0045. Cool beans?
Cool beans.
Haven't said cool beans in a while.
I say cool beans all the time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a thing.
Yeah, you're beans, right?
I am beans.
You are beans. I forgot about that.
I am beans. Shout out to Adam.
Shout out to Adam.
All right. Is that our only announcement that we got?
That's the only one I got today. I'm saving the
shout outs for the next episode.
Shout outs for the next episode at 5 o'clock.
All right, cool.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Here we go. Let's get this show on the road.
Let's do this.
Before we do that, big introduction. We did it in the live session, but Mr. Rick Vazza with Drive Wealth Management, who brought us some awesome shirts. Really excited about that.
I got the blue one.
These are the nice ones too. They're the dry fit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those rock.
Yeah,
those rock.
They didn't go cheap with the cotton. They went with the dry fit.
He went with
I
dry
like
fit.
it. I like it
because he's driven.
Yeah, people are getting after it.
Yeah, see what's up.
Awesome. So welcome to the show, Rick. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, dude. So Rick and I had a conversation prior to the podcast. And then again, because he got here a little bit early, we were waiting for you to show up, James. Mm-hmm, and we were having another conversation. And I told him right before I started, I was like, maybe we should just sit here in silence because we tend to get all kinds of stuff talked about. And let's just start off with where you are, and then we'll jump into a whole bunch of topics. So where'd you come from? Where are you today? A little bit, and tell me a little bit about what Driven is.
Yeah, no, and the planner in me, I got here a little early, right?
That's cool. Late. Better early than late.
But no, I'm currently in San Diego. So actually, my wife and I just bought a place in Point Loma.
Congratulations!
So super excited. Got to do some maintenance work this weekend, though. I'm gonna be doing final touches on the painting. And recruited a friend to help me move.
Welcome to home ownership.
I know, right? The joys and perks. But no, we are really excited. So that'll be about a mile from Ocean Beach and a mile from Liberty Station. So we're kind of right in the middle.
Nice, yeah.
So really excited. We moved out here. I'm new to San Diego in May. So we'll be coming up on a year, which has just been like a year of
flies, right?
bliss.
Flies, yeah. Where'd you come from originally?
So East Coast. I'm originally from Massachusetts. Did 3 years in New York, and then most recently 2 years in Washington, D.C.
Oh, so when we're complaining about the 50-degree cold weather, you're like,
oh my god,
in shorts and a short sleeve shirt.
It's been cracking me up as everyone complains about this winter, like, oh, worst winter in years. I'm like, this is amazing. And my family's already sick of hearing about it.
Yeah.
In particular, so my brother's in Chicago, and they got smoked with that polar vortex where it was like negative 50 degrees.
Yeah.
And so we have like the group family chat and everything. Everyone's sending messages, and I just had to kind of twist the knife a little. And
You're at the beach.
Yeah, I was like, well, we're having a bad week here too, and it was like 60 with a little bit of rain. And just like, oh my god, it's awful. So it has been awesome. Came out here in May, launched the firm in July. Takes a little bit of time to register with the states and such. Mm-hmm. So we're registered in California, Texas, New York, and Massachusetts. Kind of the East Coast connection, and then just by chance, I have family and friends who are out in like the Austin region, so that ended up being a pretty good concentration. So I registered there as well.
Nice. And so you started here in July, by the way, around the same time we started the podcast. So you launched this firm.
Nice.
So we're about the same age here when it comes to
Literally
industry.
July 13th, right?
Yeah.
And I have to double check, but my registration approval was like right around then too. So it would be kind of
boom.
Nice.
Infants in the making. But you're not an infant in the industry.
No, despite looking 18, as I regularly get reminded from clients.
Excuse me, sir, I need an ID for that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a whole funny story in of itself. The first time that happened, I'm out with clients. And, I worked with some high net worth people, and the waiter decides it was a good time to ID me. As
of course.
I'm like, you got
thanks.
to do that, right?
You know what? Just bring me a chocolate milk.
Yeah, exactly. But no, fortunately, it kind of becomes a joke, and I've gotten very used to handling that. But coming from Boston, started with Fidelity Investments, where they're headquartered out of there. So a lot of us who go through finance at some point have some exposure to that company. Great organization, nothing but positive things to say about them. I was with them for about 5.5 years. Got some excellent training, moved from Boston down to their New York office. So that's where I spent my time in the New York role, advising their kind of high net worth clients in downtown Manhattan. So that was a lot of fun. Office outside of Rockefeller Center.
Yeah, you're right in the nitty gritty of it all.
Yeah, so I loved it, and it's funny how New York does this to you, but you go from the total tourist, looking up at all the skyscrapers and loving every minute, to then getting frustrated every Christmas season as just the tourists swarm into the tree. It's kind of that rat race, but it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot too through the time being. My wife actually transitioned. She was taking her master's at NYU. Through international affairs. So DC, I kind of joke, is like the equivalent of New York for international affairs, as New York is for finance. So she got to a point where she was ready to make the move to DC. I had just hit my 5 years with Fidelity, so it was kind of a perfect time to poke your head out and see what else is out there. That's when I switched over to DC.
That's quite a move, though. I mean, it's two different heavily populated worlds. Right? I mean, you went from just that Wall Street feel to that political feel.
Yep.
Right? Still dealing with finance.
Yeah, and I was spoiled because the office, I played golf, and I joke, it wasn't quite a driver away, but probably a driver and a pitching wedge was the office to the White House.
Oh, wow.
So it was pretty cool going from directly across from Radio City to virtually directly across from the White House. So especially when my parents came to visit, they're like,
yeah, that's great. Right? Perfect. Yeah, you're doing great. And then you come over here to California, and you can't beat the weather here.
Yeah, and so now we're setting roots to, my family back on the East Coast isn't always too happy about it. But I'm like, hey, you guys can come out and visit because
especially during the winter.
Exactly. And my wife and I just love it. We're going to be here. So
yeah, you ain't going anywhere. Exactly. Once you've realized why we pay the California tax, there's a reason why people don't leave, right?
It's funny. I wrote a little Instagram caption on the sunshine tax, and I'm like, you got to take advantage of it, right? You got to take advantage of what you pay for. But it's true. There's just so much to do.
All right. So tell me a little bit about what you used to do and why you started Driven.
Yeah, so 30 years old. It's I never expected to be owning a financial planning or investment management firm growing up, for sure.
That's what she said as a kindergartner, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I want to do when I grow up.
That was my dream. Actually, it's funny. My parents were just cleaning out the closet they redid some of the house, and they found the old yearbook, and my 6th grade one was future CIA agent. So
yeah, there you go.
Old James Bond.
Well, you had letters. They're just not the same ones, right?
Good point. There's a C. It's a couple C's in there.
There you go.
But no, so my family grew up in a real estate family. So I'm the first to admit, very privileged, silver spoon upbringing. My grandfather worked really hard to develop, a successful real estate development company. And my dad and uncle ended up working for him and kind of always envisioned going the same direction. Real estate was always an interest to me. Loved tagging along to the projects and sites with my dad, things like that. Just so happened I entered college. 2007 was when I graduated high school. So kind of entering college right at the heart of the start of the crisis. Yeah. And so I think any real estate family, ours got hit particularly hard. But most of them came out on the other side, as you guys are well aware, being in real estate. The difference was my grandfather actually died in the middle of the real estate crisis, unexpectedly, had a heart attack. And so the bad part of this was he had done really no financial planning. And so this, as you guys are aware, personal guarantees on loans.
everything
you name the worst things he could have done, he did them, and no life insurance to cover it. So I actually saw my dad take over as trustee, handling the estate and everything. What really should have been the prime of his career, he spent 10 years handling the estate. and
trying to just
selling
get
off
things in
everything.
order, right?
Exactly, yeah. And as you can imagine, at that point, banks are calling everything in. He fire sales across everything around. And I mean, to my dad's credit, I still don't know how he did it, but I had a total still blessed. He paid for school, like took care of all of that. He just found a way to make it work. But it was eye-opening for me to see how impactful that was, and even worse than the financials and what kind of really lit the fire under me. I mean, I'm the oldest of all of our grandchildren. There's like 20 of us on my dad's side. We grew up, Thanksgivings together, holidays, summers, and we were very, very close. And unfortunately, going through this, as money so often does with families, most of his siblings don't have good relationships anymore. So kind of seeing firsthand the fallout of what can happen when your financial planning isn't done, it was devastating, really. And as the oldest, I think I kind of got a real strong glimpse into that, and confided in me a lot of what was going on.
You were of age to kind of
I knew
hear and understand.
Exactly. I was at that point. And so, I think seeing that and hearing it, I was like, this is just a different calling. I need to make sure that this isn't happening to other people, frankly, because I know if my grandparents could go back in time, they would have done things differently where that wouldn't have been even an option. And there's so many easy things that you can do to
nobody plans on dying.
Exactly.
Right? We have to plan in case we die, but nobody plans on dying.
Yeah, especially, healthy, 60-plus-year-old male. It's just, you're not really expecting that.
You don't know when, it was a heart attack, but it could have been anything. It could have been a beam falling on him. Exactly. It could have been him tripping and falling down. It could have been anything. And that's one of those scary things about life that we all have to come to grips with. And sometimes, you deal with a lot of people who have no real nest egg, who are struggling to make ends meet. And if they pass away, you see things like car washes around here, or different little GoFundMes or something just to pay for funeral expenses. But I like how you brought in the other aspect where you have a successful life, financially speaking. You have accumulated a number of assets. You have a trust, which most people don't even have. And yet you still didn't have the plan necessary, and how devastating it is for a family.
Exactly. And to your point, it's all walks of life. It's not necessarily ultra wealthy or not. We all kind of know those stories of the family home being left to the siblings and fighting over what's going to happen to mom and dad's home, right? So I think it impacts us all, and that was really important to me as I kind of started my journey. That was the initial fire, and then I just got, fortunate that it's one of those things that did come fairly naturally. So as I started with Fidelity, I guess kind of just trying to be a sponge, reading as much as I could, doing the work really to learn as much as possible. So I pursued the designations I have, or the CFA, which is a highly respected investment credential, and then the CFP, which is a certified financial planner. So kind of wanted to round out the ability to help and just advance really quickly through the ranks. And eventually kind of coming full circle with that story is when I got to DC. That's when I ultimately took over as a portfolio manager. And, I was managing a little over, at time I left, about $300 million. And the minimum on our private wealth team to work with me was $5 million. Again, at 30, you start looking around like, well, family and friends can't really afford that. And I love the people I worked with were amazing. Charitably inclined, just so nice and great. I was grateful to have the experience. But at the same time, I was having friends who were coming to me, hey, Rick, you're obviously having a lot of success. I have these pretty daunting challenges, student loans, planning for a family, rent versus buy decisions. And I don't know what to do. And so the answer I had was, well, my firm really wants nothing to do with you just because our minimums are so high. And I think the industry answer has pretty much been, go in a robo-advisor, fill out a risk tolerance questionnaire, which really only helps you with your investing, doesn't answer any of those questions they were actually asking me about. Yeah. And so it's kind of a hole in the system where you're like, well, these are people who need the help at this stage of their life, and if you can address it now, you're going to change their life forever.
Let's hover on that, because that's one of those weird conundrums that exists in the financial world. I need to invest my money to make as much money as I possibly can. Give me the best quality investment possible. Your answer is, I'm sorry, I can't. You're not an accredited investor. I can't give you the same opportunity that the guy who makes $250,000 a year, $2 million in assets can, because you just don't, based on this standard, you don't make enough money to understand the investment that's coming in. And that's not always necessarily the case. All I want you to do is help me get from where I'm at so that I'm in a better position. Help me make some of these general decisions. And yet we, as a fiduciary, sometimes you're not allowed to help to the extent that you want to help.
Yeah, in a lot of cases, that was exactly the situation. And then I'd even say to complement that, that the habits that you start now are the same even when you have wealth, even if you don't have them, right? It's all starting to build those habits and momentum because, that $25 that maybe you can only save a month now is going to turn into $100, is going to turn into $1,000. And so if you're building those processes now, because a lot of people will say, well, when I have money, I'll handle that.
Right.
It's not like a
switch. I wish flipped, it was right? Like that. Yeah,
exactly. So that's really one of the big messages that I try to get across is, even if it feels like you can't do it now, just getting those systems started will really be impactful.
Well, we talked a little bit before the show about accumulating that kind of wealth structure, right? We were talking about, well, if you invest over time, it's the basic compound interest formula, right? A very basic formula. You put money away, and over a period of time, it increases, and you're earning money on not only your principal, but what money it earns. So you're earning money on your money. And the problem that most people face is they don't realize the power of putting that money away until they're in their 40s or 50s and they're a few years away from retirement.
Yeah, they have that oh gosh moment.
Yeah, right. And so now they're looking at their portfolio and they're like, okay, well, I need to put away so much money to get to my retirement. And now you've lost the power of time, right? Because there's the main two components in this compound interest are money putting in and time. And if you're wasting away the time, you need to compensate with more money. And that's one of those things that we try to get across to people as much as possible. Even at my 17-year-old kids, I'm like, I don't care what you're putting away right now. You're right. The $25, the $100, if you can do $25, $50 a year, that's $500, $600, but you have time. That money is going to grow over time. It's the one thing that you can't get back when you're 45, 50 years old. That's when you start looking back and regret, like, oh shit, I should have done that then. Right?
Yeah, and that's why one of the things that we work with, the company we call Driven, so it's a play on kind of our name, but one of the things I always try to work with members is, what drives you? So kind of identifying a couple of real priorities to people. And I'd say common ones are, saving for a down payment, a travel fund, healthcare, things like that are important to them. And so what's important is I'll encourage them to label their accounts so that every time they log in, they see that, right? So it'll say, down payment account. And it's powerful because we all have those money leaks that you're referring to, right? Where there's 20, what's $5 here? What's $10 here, right? It all kind of adds up over time. So if you have that kind of powerful behavioral indicator with the account nickname, every time you log in, you see, well, geez, my travel account says 0, but I really want to take that trip, right? It's an incentive to start funneling that money into those things that are important. So
that's cool. It's kind of like a digital visual board, right?
Exactly. It also encourages you to start stacking. And then what's cool is as it builds momentum, and you're like, well, geez, this thing's really starting to grow. And then it kind of
Let me
snowballs.
Put some more in there. Let me put some more in there.
Exactly.
No, so that is really, really cool. I like the fact that you set them up that way because I wouldn't think to do that, but that totally makes sense.
At the end of the day, a lot of the financial stuff we're doing are behavioral tricks because a lot of what I think holds people back is just the way our mindset is over money. A lot of us know, of course I need to be saving more, investing more, but how can you figure out tricks that are actually going to stimulate that?
Yeah, it's funny because I do what I've dubbed the My 10 challenge, and it's a savings trick, same type of thing. I don't spend $10 bills, so it's my wife and I put ourselves on a cash budget, so we know exactly. We take the cash out every month when we get paid, and we're like, this is how much is going for groceries, this is how much is going for whatever, and everything else is automatic. So everything that our savings our money comes out of our account automatically goes into our savings. Our bills are automatically paid, mortgage, all those other stuff. But all of our regular expenses, gas, fund money, our groceries, our own personal allowances, essentially, all that comes out in cash. And so anytime I'm transacting in dollars. So I'll go to In-N-Out and it's like $8 or something, and I give them a $20 bill, and if they give me 2 5s, cool, I can keep going on my day. But if they get me a 10, I can't spend that. And so I keep them and I put them away like in a shoebox. Right? I just stack the 10s, and it's really cool because now it's it's been almost maybe 2 years or so, and that's an extra $2,000 in $10 bills that is now there. and it's fun.
I've never heard that too.
It's fun, right? It's cool. It's like different. And all of a sudden it's a game. You're about to pay and you're like, oh shit, here it comes. Yes, I got 5s, right? I mean, if I got 10, 10 doesn't hurt. It sucks, but it's so bad.
And I like the way it frames too, because it's also like, even if you're not spending it, then you're kind of rewarding yourself by putting it somewhere.
Yeah,
right?
it's still your money.
Exactly.
Except you can put it towards something if you want something specific. So right now I'm putting money away because like my grandpa had this Pepsi machine, like the one that takes dimes, like old school Pepsi machine. So it's sitting in my garage and it's ugly right now. My goal is to take those 10s eventually and then refurbish it, make it nice, and then stick it in here in the studio.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So that'd be cool, right? You come over, you're like, hey, you want a Pepsi? You got to drop a dime in there. Clink, clink, right? It'd be cool to have.
I like that.
So that's the goal for the 10s right now, for me personally. But anybody can have a goal.
And
right?
that's a great example of a powerful motivator.
Noemi Corona says she's going to bring you money in 10s.
Yeah, she does do that too. She does do that. She's one of my tax pros. So
awesome.
she does tax returns with me, and so she'll come in and she'll pay for the returns that she's done, and she'll pay me in 10s.
I like that.
I'm like, oh, thanks, Noemi.
Well done.
Well done, right? Forced savings. No, that's really one of those things. It's forcing yourself to do some things, because some things you have to set to be automatic. If you don't have them on automatic, if you're not conditioned, if you're not trained to do those things, they're not going to get done. It's like going to the gym, or it's like being on, the proper diet. All those things are the same type of things. We're human. We're not going to do the things that we say we're going to do. We're going to do the things that we have a habit of doing.
And when they're automated, you're less likely to actually cancel it too.
Right? Like a gym membership.
Yeah, like think of how hard it is if you're like $25 a month. I'm not going to cancel 25.
Yeah.
So I think there's it's on both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. And I read a book a long time ago, The Millionaire Next Door, I think it was. Mm-hmm. Right? And that was the same type of thing. You're going to make $1 million. You can put away that kind of money if you just have it systematically coming out of your account, and on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis or on a pay period basis, and just automatically have it done and don't even think about it. Right? What was another one? The Richest Man in Babylon's all about putting that 10% away for yourself. And I think there's a misconception on paying yourself and putting money away. Like, I think there's a big difference. Paying yourself, to me anyways, is money that you will never touch again. It is your money, and it's put to work for you, because it's got to pay you when you stop working at some point in the future.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, now working with more and more business owners, that we have to think about, because by nature of the business, who we're kind of attracting is the young entrepreneurial, either starting a business or already along in their kind of early stages of the business. And it's easy because as you're putting money back into the business and seeing that growth, right, the growth rates can be really attractive.
Yes.
So it's hard to say, well, geez, I'm going to be putting money off to something like a S&P 500 investment that's only going to get me 9% a year, when reinvesting in my business is going to be 20% or more, right?
Yeah.
But kind of there's an interesting framework that I had just heard on a recent podcast, and it's kind of like saying, like, you're pre-funding your buyout, because ultimately by just building that, to your point, putting it away, you're stockpiling that savings that is eventually going to allow you to walk away, because otherwise you're going to be tied to the business forever, and there's no end game at
well, it's an exit strategy, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what type of investment you have. I don't care what it is, whether you're starting a business, whether you're buying rental property, or whether you're buying property in general, or your own finances in general. You need to be thinking with the end in mind. It's the out that's the goal. It's the exit. Exactly. It's the only reason why you're going to work every day, is because you need to get out of going to work every day at some point in the future. But we don't think of it that way. We think of retirement as a number, as like, I'm going to retire when I become 67 years of age, or when I've done 20 years of service. But whoops, that's you.
That is me. That's actually my Business Bros alarm.
That's funny. See, okay, now it's time to start the show.
Is this thing on?
Is this thing on?
Whoops.
No, but that's the thing, right? Is we all look at, or many of us look at retirement as an age, and it's not an age. It's not an age problem. It's a monthly cash flow problem. The sooner you can solve that cash flow problem, the sooner you could retire. Now, whether or not you're going to stop working, that's a whole different question on its own.
Yeah, and I'd say more and more, even the people that are kind of being attracted to what I'm doing with the company are that young, ambitious individual or family, and they're saying, more and more, we're not planning to retire, but the idea of financial freedom is certainly attractive, right? So at some point you do want to be able to make decisions because you want to, not because you feel like you financially have to.
Right.
And so that's, I think, a huge component of it too. It's getting away from that 67, 65 number when Social Security kicks in, and more thinking about, okay, well, how am I setting myself up to really enjoy the lifestyle that I want?
That's the key. That's the I don't know if it's not sold right, if we don't learn it in school. I don't know what it is, but we're always taught that it's a number. Now, you work with a bunch of different people. You've been working with younger people. How difficult is it for them to like internalize that idea of when you're 65 or when you're 55, when you're talking to a 25-year-old? I mean, that's another lifetime for them. Literally, if they're 25 and they're talking about 50, that's the same amount of time that they've been alive. But they got to think of that in terms of that's the only time you really have. Those are your earning years. Those are your accumulation phase. How do we get that across to them?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the marketing that I'm going with, but I think a byproduct of it has been a certain person that I'm attracting to work with me. And they are, they're hungry, they're ambitious. So it's not necessarily a problem of convincing them how to save. It's more of some of the strategic challenges that are coming along. Like, how do I analyze my stock options? How do I make a decision if I should be renting or if I'm ready to buy? They know that and just ambition alone is kind of having them on that pursuit to, achieve high incomes and put some of the money away. In a lot of cases, that's even what it is. I have all this cash and I'm nervous about investing. I don't know what to do with it. Can you help me with that? So it isn't as much of like convincing them that you have to do it. I think, fortunately, a lot of us did see what our parents went through with the financial recession, and just how like, no one's gonna throw you a lifesaver, right? You're on your own. I mean,
well, they're sinking too.
Exactly. Yeah, and like their pensions are gone, right? So I mean, there's just no, and Social Security only gets you so far. So I think we kind of all realize like we need to take control. I think what I try to do is be that accountability partner along the way. We all have financial blind spots. Sometimes it's just not having enough time even. So a lot of those high achieving, ambitious people, that's their biggest problem. It's like, hey, I know I'm probably doing a lot of this right, but at the same time, I need someone who has expertise and has seen people go off the rails, frankly, a few times, to kind of watch my blind spots and make sure that I'm staying on track and doing the right things.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, there's sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right? Exactly. So having somebody to talk to, bounce ideas off of, get just a second opinion on where I'm at in life it could open up doors to things that you didn't see, that you didn't know could happen, risks that are involved, right? Things that like it's okay, I got life insurance, I got $150,000. Well, but you have 4 kids and a mortgage. Like, do you know that if you die, that's not even going to cover, X amount of your life, right? And so having this sit down conversation about, I mean, again, life insurance is a love product. You love your family, right? We want to make sure they're taken care of. So let's set these things up, and at least you have peace of mind. Now you focus your attention on whatever you were doing before. Keep going, keep hustling, go make as much money as possible.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, I come across people who just don't understand vocabulary, for example. Things as simple as tax-free, right? Or tax deduction.
Yep.
Like, does it mean it's free?
It's funny. I just did a post on that of kind of the industry jargon, and how even I'm definitely guilty of it myself, but sometimes because we're so immersed in this and see it every day, you take for granted some of the things that are Roth or traditional to us that might be second nature.
Yeah,
some people see this once a year. I mean, they're like, I see it in April if my accountant.
The first time I got it set up, and then after that is just a line item on my tax return.
And to your point, like, we aren't taught it in school either. So a lot of it's just like, hey, here's a great paying job. Here's 100 pages of gibberish that are your employee benefits. Have fun reading through it. Go figure it out. No one's going to walk up to their new manager like, I don't really understand this. Can you help
not
me
even knowing their manager probably doesn't understand it either.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other animal.
And so, it's one of those fear things, right? I don't want to look like an idiot, but it's okay. Everybody you're asking probably doesn't know either. So the more you get to know the answer, the more valuable you become, essentially, and the more taken care of you are, right?
Absolutely.
So you guys work with people on an independent basis, or do you working with firms and?
It's kind of now developed into, I'd say, 3 buckets that have been attracted because I started with the intent of individuals and families. So kind of driven, ambitious, motivated basically people who want to take financial control. And that, as I mentioned, kind of morphed into attracting a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners. So I've loved the CFO type of role. So I've kind of called it the outsourced CFO role, where now I'm working with people, typically it's quarterly basis, and just helping them with forecasting, budgeting, cash flow management, basically all of the things that they don't want to be used.
Yeah, but those are so important, dude. I mean, look, when we're living our lives, for the most part, we're on a month-to-month basis, right? Our most bills come on a month-to-month basis, so it forces us to think on a month-to-month basis. But as you're building a business, you got to get beyond the month to month. You should be forecasting in years, and if not 2 years or 3 years in advance, because you're going to have things in your business that are seasonal. For example, you're going to have months that are really good, and you're going to have months that are really slow, and you need to be able to adjust your cash flow accordingly and understand that there's going to be cycles in the market that could happen, not just seasonal, but it could be for real estate. For example, every 10 years you're going to have a change. If you're a real estate agent and you've been focusing your attention only on, maybe finding for sale by owners, well, guess what? There's going to come a point where those don't really exist anymore. You need to start focusing on foreclosures, for example. I mean, just different types of things that happen in any industry. And forecasting is huge, but people don't do it.
I have a huge benefit too of now getting to work with people through different industries. I mean, it's the same thing. Whereas if you're lazy, I mean, and there's some huge benefits to niching. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's along with marketing, but also the expertise that comes with knowing an industry inside and out. But the other advantage of having some cross-industry exposure is you can start to see trends happening in other industries. I mean, particularly like technology, for example, and how that might impact some of these other industries. So I think that's another kind of fortunate.
Well, that's a huge thing for you to understand, and a huge value point that you bring to your clients, right? Look, I see things happening everywhere, and I see things changing over here, and I know it's like one of those ancillary things, but it's going to affect you, right? I mean, it's kind of like the whole government shutdown. It was one thing if the government employees or contractors weren't getting paid, but what about the coffee shops and the restaurants and the stuff that they were going to? Those were being affected too, because there was no money being spent there.
Yep.
So, you being able as a financial planner, looking at the overall picture of this particular niche industry, but at the same time understanding what's going on in other industries because of your clients, that's invaluable.
Yeah, and I mean, as you can tell, like that's a part of the business that I love.
Yeah.
I think especially having the opportunity to kind of work side by side with the business owner and talk through strategy, and help in any way that I can as far as, what's the best way to attack it. And I know we talked about this a little bit before, but one of the things is a lot of the times we're just looking at profits and losses and balance sheets, right? Which are all kind of backwards looking. So the fun part can also be looking at some of the key performance indicators with the business, creating that dashboard that's more forward looking and figuring out, okay, are we doing the things that are actually moving you towards that 10-year plan that you've so well articulated.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part that's really fun. So that's morphed into, frankly, my fastest growing part of the business right now. That's like the second bucket. And the natural byproduct of that too is, as I'm working with those business owners, that on the back end corresponds with their personal finances, right? Because all right, now we've gotten the business addressed. Let's handle how you're actually getting paid and taking care of your own circumstances. So those do go pretty well hand in hand. And then the third piece is I do manage money with my investment background. I'll manage like the 401ks and small business plans for some of the firms as well. So kind of three different buckets that have morphed, and
they're just part of what's going on. That's just part of what you do.
Yeah, and they all interact very well.
Nice. Rick, do me a favor. Look at the camera. Tell them how they get a hold of you if they want to work with you, man.
Well, you can always call. So I always do a free consultation. No pressure. It's 619-630-0660. You can find us at drivenwm.com. So drivenwealthmanagement.com is what that stands for. And then I'm pretty active on social media. Big push for me is education. So a lot of free content coming out pretty much daily, and weekly blogs. That's our handle is at drivenwm.
And I saw you guys are hosting some training event coming up soon.
Yeah, so super excited. I'm doing now 2 seminars a month. Same thing, free educational content. We have a Building Your Financial Foundations, which is kind of our starter seminar. Again, completely free, and it's through Meetup. It's awesome. We had great feedback. And then the second one is the follow-on to that, which is, okay, now that you've got your foundations in place, how do you develop your financial strategy?
Cool. Education free education.
That's
and I saw you were doing it at the brewery in Coronado.
Yeah, it's Coronado Brewery Tasting Room. Plug to them. I mean, they've been awesome and super accommodating. Next one's going to be April 10th at 7 if you're available. Would love to have you. And it's, I mean, they've just been a great partner in that. So.
Yeah, that's perfect. So real estate agents out there, by the way, I mean, you're making money, you're closing deals, you're getting commissions, you're making it happen. What are you doing with it? I want you to look at your savings portfolio if you even have one. And if you don't, you need to really look in the mirror and say, okay, I'm rounding the bend here on another year, another great production. What do I have to show for it? You need to have something put away for yourself. Otherwise, why the hell are you doing it? So right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So take a look in the mirror, take a look in that bank account. If there's nothing at the end of the year, your savings should be going on the uptick, not the downtick. So if your bank accounts are not going up on a regular basis, you need to talk to somebody. Rick's a good option. Check him out. He's got some free stuff going on. At least open your ears to some of that information. Learn the vocabulary, speak the language, so that when somebody talks to you about it, you know what's up.
Exactly.
You know exactly what's up. Rick, dude, thanks for being on the show, man.
Thanks for having me. This was a great chat with you.
I love this stuff.
So I
could keep going with this forever. All right, ladies and gentlemen, quick reminder, 365 pairs of shoes. Over there. So 365 pairs of shoes by the end of the year. Hummus over here. I haven't called you Hummus on the show in such a long time. James over here, right? James is going to ride his Harley out there. He's kind of loud, so hopefully the babies aren't sleeping when he shows up. But he will pick up those shoes, 365 pairs. Any other last minute stuff?
That's it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Are we gonna be live again after?
I'm pretty sure we're gonna be live with Jose Ramirez over here.
Doubleheader today.
So
we'll
today.
See you guys around 5.
Remember, if you guys want to add insurance to your business, or you just have some policies you need help with, James at csfirst.com, 619-884-0045. Or if you want to be on the show, like Rick over here, right? You got some stuff. Oh, I'm over here now. All right, see? Yeah, director. All right. Or if you guys want to be on the show, you got some clients or some businesses that are pretty cool that you want them to be on the show, Hernan at csfirst.com, 619-884-4915. Follow us on social media at Business Bros Pod. That's all we got for you guys today. Peace.
Bye-bye.
And
Thanks,
I'm
guys.
out. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, right? Facebook, we love you.
You can look at that one. You're on that one as well.
We're on a split screen. We love you. See, like if we both
Thanks
point,
for
it
tuning
looks
in.
like we're right next to each other. What up?
What up?
You. All right, guys. Thanks. Not bad, huh?
No, thank you guys. I mean,
Fun.
such a cool opportunity to
Such fun. Dude.
talk about what I'm doing.